Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Lincoln Riley, this USC program, continue to roll on the recruiting trail, landing another commitment from three-star running back Harry Dalton III, coming from the state of Virginia. And this is one of the more intriguing running back prospects in this 2025 class, a guy that, according to 24/7 Sports, may be flying under the radar. You took a look at some other recruiting services. On3 has him as a top 20 running back in the class, a top 250 player nationally, a guy that has offers from all over the country: Ohio State, Alabama, Florida. He ends up coming to USC. And I think my favorite aspect about Harry Dalton III is talk about Big Ten running backs, a little bit more physicality. That is exactly what Harry Dalton brings to this USC offense. And we had that conversation last week when USC took Riley Wormley in this 2025 class, a little bit of an undersized running back that's really good in space. You take a look at Harry Dalton. He's a guy that, in my mind, perfectly complements what Riley Wormley brings to the table. Harry Dalton, this is a guy that seeks out contact, plays with low pads, absorbs contact extremely well, runs the ball between the tackles just about as hard and as physically as any running back in this 2025 class. You kind of understand why USC likes this kid so much. Want to get into the film. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys and a massive shout out to the USC fans. It has been a blast breaking down all of these commitments for USC. The USC commitment sweatshirt getting put through the ringer the last couple of weeks. Can't thank you guys enough for rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And it sounds like USC might not even be done over the next couple of days with the commitments, so we'll continue to break down them as they come in. But without further ado, let's get into Harry Dalton III. And when you start diving into the film, this is a guy that kind of checks the boxes from a physicality standpoint at that running back position. And we've talked about this over the last couple of weeks and months. The physicality of this football team has been a top priority for Lincoln Riley heading into 2024, heading into the Big Ten. Guys are gaining weight in the weight room, and you're seeing an emphasis on recruiting guys out of high school that bring that physicality. I think Lincoln Riley has a picture of how he wants this team to operate, and it's not only along the line of scrimmage, right? You want physicality across your roster. And a guy like Harry Dalton certainly brings that to the table. He is absolutely put together. You get into the film a little bit, and I mean, this is what you're working with. This is a guy that thick lower half, absorbs contact extremely well, and you start getting into the film. This is a guy that runs the football exactly how USC wants to run it in the Big Ten. Guy that just kind of gets manufactured touches any way possible. You see him playing the Wildcat quarterback. I mean, absorbs contact, stays on his feet. The contact balance and the physicality of which he runs with, that's really what stands out to you on the film, right? We talked about Riley Wormley last weekend being that running back that can kind of make him miss, a guy that averaged, over 8 yards per carry at the high school level. Harry Dalton is one of those running backs that just wants to put his shoulder pads down and absorb contact to continue to work through the film. Another thing that is really impressive for Harry Dalton is the short area quickness is really impressive for a guy that's 200 pounds, right? Plays with low pads, can get in and out of his breaks extremely well. And again, he's not necessarily the massive big play guy that Riley Wormley is, but you talk about short yardage backs, you talk about guys that want to play with that physicality, always falling forward. That's what Harry Dalton brings to the table. And it kind of reminds me of something that I really like in this running back right here is he's always a guy that kind of finds those hidden yards. On every single carry that you see on Harry Dalton's film, he's a guy that turns a 2nd and 7 into a 2nd and 5, turns a 3rd and 5 into a 3rd and 2, right? These kind of guys that find those hidden yards are falling forward. That type of stuff means a lot. And as a Michigan fan, I always thought Blake Corum did that at such a high level. And it's not necessarily the flashy plays, but when you can consistently find those hidden yards, keep your offense on schedule, that means a lot. And Harry Dalton III certainly brings that to this USC offense. Again, so many touches. You see him win in a lot of different ways. Kind of a stretch zone here, picks his way through traffic. And again, in space, he's not looking to make anyone miss. He's going to go right through somebody's face. This is a guy that you just kind of want playing on your football team, want him in the locker room. Really big fan of this kid, really understand why USC decided to take him. And again, you see he's a guy that, yes, his game is physicality, But when it comes to getting in open space, he's a guy that can turn on the jets. He's got some juice to him in the open space as well. Really big fan of him. You see a lot of different touches from a lot of different points. Playing that Wildcat quarterback, works through traffic extremely well. Again, contact balance, absolutely incredible, making people miss at the second level. And you take a look at what USC is doing in this 2025 class. And partially the reason why I'm so high on this commitment is when we talked about a guy like Riley Wormley last week, coming in from Southlake, Texas, 5'9", 170, guy that averages, over 8 yards per carry, but not necessarily that physical running back. And when you start looking at how you want your running back room to look, you want guys that have different skill sets, right? Riley Wormley, pass-catching guy, can operate in space. And then you look at a guy like Harry Dalton III. He's a guy that wants to be between the tackles. You talk about short yardage. You talk about getting those 3rd and 1s and 3rd and 2s and converting on those. That's when Harry Dalton III comes into the fold. Now, you look at USC and what they're doing in this 2025 class. We talked about it going into the weekend, a massive visitor list. I highlighted some of the guys that I was most intrigued by. Well, USC had some surprise visitors that we didn't get a chance to talk about. I also want to update you guys on a few other guys that USC certainly kind of making some moves on in this 2025 class. And I want to talk about the linebacker position. First guy I want to talk about, and this was a little bit of a surprise visit for USC, at least in my eyes. I didn't see any news of him being on campus, is Riley Pettijohn, 4-star linebacker from the state of Texas. Similar conversation that we had with Matai last weekend as well. Riley Pettijohn is that modern-day college football linebacker, 6'2", 205, certainly needs to put some weight on the frame. But you dive into the film of Riley Pettijohn, not only extremely productive, over 120 tackles, 10 tackles for a loss as a junior. This is a guy that is elite in space. You see him play the nickel role. You see him even play a little bit of safety. This is a guy that when you look at how offenses want to attack opposing defenses, they want to attack the athleticism of linebackers. Riley Pettijohn is not a linebacker that lacks any athleticism. Sideline to sideline, extremely good in coverage. We kind of said that USC has a kind of a type at the cornerback spot, those long physical cornerbacks. Well, you're seeing USC kind of have a type at the linebacker spot as well, and that is athletic linebackers that have a ton of range and really can operate in space. Riley Pettijohn, certainly one of those guys. And then another one who I might even like more than Riley Pettijohn, and that's saying something, is Christian Jones, coming from Omaha, Nebraska, was on campus for USC this weekend as well. 6'3", 220. And you look at Christian Jones and you turn on the film, very similar conversation that we had with Riley Pettijohn, is he's a guy that you look at the physical traits, a 10.8 in the 100-meter dash, a guy that plays the overhang linebacker spot, blitzes off the edge. You talk about athletic linebackers that can go sideline to sideline. Christian Jones, Riley Pettijohn, Matai Tagoai. Those are all the linebackers that USC is really going after in this 2025 class. Y'all know I'm a massive fan of what USC is doing on the recruiting trail. They land another massive one here in Harry Dalton III. Might have some more commitments to talk about down the road. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas, though. Can't thank y'all enough for all the support. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.